Hello and welcome to another edition of the Vickie Remoe Show. Today I'm in Wellington on the outskirts of Freetown in Sierra Leone. I've come to meet Dr. Eva Roberts, the owner, founder, proprietor, entrepreneur of Morvigor Moringa Tea, which is the first tea company in Sierra Leone. Follow me.
Hi Vickie.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Nice to have you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go.
I'm not a condition.
Welcome to another edition of the Vickie Remoe Show. Today's show brings us to Wellington on the outskirts of Freetown in Sierra Leone. We're meeting an entrepreneur, fabulous entrepreneur, who's involved in the tea business. It's Morvigor Moringa Tea. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Dr. Eva, you've been in business for some time now, but I think what people may not know about you is that this isn't your first calling. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in making tea or tea production and running Morvigor.
While doing some research on the internet on water purification, I'd never heard before of Moringa, and so I continued reading. And there was this plant that was known as the tree of life that had all sorts of minerals and vitamins and was good for everybody, and everybody was mad about it. So I continued reading and I thought, this is something that kind of is in synergy with what I do in life, which is being a doctor. And let me see where I can take it from here. So I continued reading, and as I learned more about it, I got very excited about it. And when we got home in December 2007, I went around Waterloo and areas like that, asking if anybody had heard of this plant. And I remember there was this lady at the edge of the crowd, didn't say anything. And at the end of my discussion, she said, "Oh, madam, come, let me take you to the back of my yard to show you if this is what you're talking about." And there, of course, was Moringa. I said, "Where did you get this from?" And she said, "Oh, there was some white man that came at the end of the war and gave us some seeds and said, you plant these, they'll be good for you." And he went away. So she, like many of them, planted, and the thing was growing wild, but she didn't know what to do with it.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, so this grows here. So that takes me across the first hurdle. People do know what it is. And then I met another guy on some Moringa site, and we started to discuss about Moringa, an American guy. And he sent me my first lot of seeds.
Okay.
So my first lot of Moringa seeds that I used in Sierra Leone came from the United States of America.
Okay.
And so I started to hand these out for folks to plant, and so we started from there. So the first product line we started on was the Moringa powder.
Okay.
My husband and myself started in our kitchen. Bought a little hand grinder and a sieve, and got a little plastic container, and was packaging these and selling it in little mom and pop shops. And that started to do well. And then with further research, I read that other people were doing Moringa teas in tea bags.
Okay.
So then I went on one of the popular Chinese websites to see how I could source the tea bags and the rest of the packaging. And I got information from there. I won a prize of 75 million euros. It was a lot of money in those days, 10 years ago. That was
Which now is what, about $10,000?
Yeah.
Okay. But then it was like
$15,000
more.
at the time,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So with this, I was able to move downstairs Unfortunately, my tenants downstairs had to leave because I needed more room. I was able to engage 2 staff.
Okay.
And we continued. I went to one of the local plastic manufacturers and he was able to do my own packaging with more vigor and all of that. So this was my product, it wasn't anybody else's. And continued with this, and I was approached by the West Africa Venture Fund.
Okay.
They invested in us. So with this now we were able to go to China to buy our machinery, kind of dryers and grinders and tea packaging machines and the packaging.
Okay.
And we came back and we started doing moringa teas.
Okay.
So when we first started, it was just the plain moringa tea. But as time went on, we thought, why don't we add some flavorings? I mean, it's all part of the value addition.
Right, right.
So we got moringa and ginger tea, moringa and lemongrass, and started selling at one of the big supermarkets. And now I'm proud to say all the supermarkets in Sierra Leone carry our moringa teas.
Okay. How did you, so one of the key issues with, of course, getting new products to the markets is getting sales and distribution. How did you get those initial moms and pops who either they had never heard of moringa, they didn't know you, there was no brand, there was no branding. How did you get or convince those first set of people who took the powder that was being made in your kitchen to actually stock it and sell it to the public?
A lot of legwork, a lot of printing of flyers, a lot of talking, because here you are trying to talk to folk about stuff they know nothing about, and you're trying to convince them that the stuff you take in bottles, the capsules, the multivitamin capsules, is kind of similar to what I'm offering you here, and this is natural. It has no additives, no preservatives. And I think the fact that I'm a medical doctor as well helped a lot, because I'm sure they would have felt, well, she wouldn't sell us something that wasn't good for us. Right. So that was it, kind of going around talking to people, and every so often you'd meet somebody who'd say, oh yes, I've heard of this moringa, but I don't know what it is. And I'd say, right, here it is, and I'd go on with my spiel, and and I think at the start, most people took it from me just to get rid of me. If you don't take it, you won't go away. So, that was it.
Right. Okay, and then getting to the level where big supermarkets were stocking you, was it the same kind of work you needed to do, or the same level? Or is it that now that you have branding, people are like, oh, it's a great product, it's a branded product, so I'll just put it on my shelves?
No, it wasn't that easy. The very first supermarket we went into, luckily, they belong to a family that has been in Sierra Leone for years. Okay. And they are really interested in showcasing local produce. Okay. So they said, okay, we like the packaging, we'll put it on our shelves. So bring a few. I think I started off with half a dozen. Okay. And we'll see how it moves. Okay. If it moves, we'll continue to take some more. Of course. And we'll carry it in our other branches. So that was how it started. So once they started carrying it and it was moving, I was able to go to the other supermarkets and say, oh, your competitors are carrying this. And by the time I got to the 4th or 5th supermarket, I didn't have to sell anymore. Okay, right. I have moringa. Okay, we'll take it. Okay, got you. Did you ever feel intimidated or, I don't know, worried or just like afraid to approach anybody to talk to them? Because I think, again, like for new entrepreneurs starting out, going to a supermarket, especially because most of our supermarkets here are not owned by indigenous people, did you ever feel or have concerns? No, I am never afraid to approach anybody. The worst they'll say is, sorry, I'm not interested. Right. Then I move on to the next person. But I don't just move on to the next person. You look at the person's body language. Perhaps all they need is more convincing. Right. You convince them. But if they have this set space and know they're not interested, you move on. You don't want to annoy anybody. Right. So another question I'm often asked is, how do you find as a woman, you get on in business? How does your partner kind of deal with you in business? I often think, well, what has gender got to do with it? I'm a person. I'm in business. Why should being a woman be difficult, you know. So, you know, and this is what I try to say to young girls whenever I meet them and I get to talk to them. Do not be afraid.
Right.
Go for it. Yeah.
Right. So, but you do, I mean, I think the thing that maybe the reason why they may be asking this question about like gender is that I think depending on sometimes where you find yourself in the socioeconomic ladder, and I think age is really, really important because what I found in Sierra Leone is it's because we naturally, traditionally respect people who are older that like as a woman, if you're like above 40, people take you more seriously than if you're an entrepreneur in your 20s, right? So I think probably that might be a key thing because, you know, you have, like if you walk into a supermarket right now and you say you have a product, the staff there would probably usher you in to see the manager, while somebody who's in their 20s, they'll say, the manager is busy. The manager not there. Wait till you want. Go come back. Left. You know what I mean? Like the barriers. And I think what you say about like, you know, just not having fear, because in my 20s I probably would already enter a little afraid. So they'd see like my apprehension and know that like maybe I if I feel like I don't belong, then they also get a feeling like, well, you don't belong here. So I think that might be it.
Yes, I think yes, you're right there. I was older when I started this. I was much traveled.
Right.
So nobody or nothing fazed me.
Right.
You know, but that's a pity, isn't it? Because it means we're losing out on all these good ideas that young people have. You know, and are they going to wait till they're old to get it done? You know, so perhaps the fund givers, the outlets, whoever they happen to be, should listen some more.
Let's go back to Morvigor and this like evolution. So I'm guessing that at some point you're buying moringa from people. How did you transition then to having your own farm of moringa, or was it that you had your own farm and then you transitioned to buying, or is it both? How are you actually sourcing the product?
At the start, it was wholly sourcing from people who happened to be growing it. Okay. Then we started giving seeds. Say, you grow this and we'll buy it. And then again with the funding we got from West Africa Venture Fund, we developed a farm we already had. We had a cassava farm in Makeni. So we just hived off a bit of it and started growing moringa on there. And but one thing we're very adamant about is encouraging, especially women smallholders, to grow, because moringa is quite easy to grow really, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. And the growing season is so short. And you just keep harvesting and it keeps growing. So what we try to do, especially in this Wellington area, Wellington kind of Waterloo axis, we give seedlings to folk and say, you grow it and we'll buy it off you. And this is easy money for you because it doesn't need a lot of tending. You know, just as you chop it, it grows. In fact, in places like Senegal, it's known as it's never die. Because it, you know, it doesn't die. A little bit of water and you get as many leaves as you want. You know, so right now it's we're still doing more of that. And because our farm is up in Makeni, we'll get leaves, we'll harvest and get leaves down maybe 3 times a year. Which means that most of what we get is from the surroundings. So I'll tell you right now, we buy from as far as Juba in the west to Lungay. You know, wherever it is, we're buying, and we keep encouraging more people
to get into the job.
Get into this cultivation.
Tell me about the actual production process. So when you purchase or you cultivate your moringa and you have it all together, what are the different phases that the product goes through before it ends up in my teacup?
So moringa is something that is best harvested early in the morning. It's a plant that doesn't travel very well. It soon starts to wilt. So you want to try and process it before that starts. So we'll get it in, say, about 11 midday.
Okay.
Get some of the local youth to come help us strip, wash in loads and loads of water, especially during the dry season when there's so much dust around. Loads and loads of water. We wash, we dry, we have an electric dryer. So that is dried and we grind all on the same day. And the next day we grind and we package. So within a space of 24 hours, we've gone from the leaves on the plants in somebody's farm to in your tea bag. Yeah. So which means that whatever you're getting is fresh.
Right. Okay. In Sierra Leone, how do people, because we are tea drinkers. You know, I always tell people, like, you know, in Sierra Leone, we don't really drink coffee so much, but we drink tea. In Sierra Leone, how does your product compare to, like, maybe imported tea products, and how do people, well, what kind of response do you get from, like, people in the public with regards to what they prefer, or how they feel like Morvigor does with regards to what's imported?
First of all, if we look at the presentation of the tea itself, when they go, they see it on the shelves. I mean, a lot of folks aren't convinced this is made in Sierra Leone because you have the packaging and it looks like something that is imported until they pick it up. Then when they take it home, the first thing some of them, because I do get a lot of feedback, because our telephone numbers are on our packaging, and some folks would phone and say, yes, we say this is a tea, but yours doesn't brew as dark as the normal tea.
Because they used to Lipton and that dark. Okay.
And you say to them, well, this is because our leaves are not fermented. Those ones are fermented. Just compare this to your herbal teas. And those who already drink herbal teas will say, oh yes, that's what you mean. And you know, taste they like, it's comparable. Price is comparable to the imported herbal teas.
Of course.
You know, so and I'll tell you, even now we are beginning to get the government hospitals serving Moringa teas to their patients, and I'm so excited about that because it's taken me such a long time to convince our nutritionists that listen, this is something that is good and this is something that is made here. But now they're on site, and you know, it's beginning to move in that direction.
Okay. Next thing that I want to know is, where are you planning on taking the brand in, like, the near to distant future? Like, you know, yes, you're doing teas, you have multiple flavors. What's next in terms of adding value to the supply chain, or adding value to an agricultural product?
At the moment, we're trialing Moringa biscuits. Okay. And these are not just ordinary biscuits. We're aiming this at people who are interested in nutrition for themselves and for their families, because we're not, instead of using wheat flour, which contains gluten, we're using cassava flour, 100% cassava flour. And there are so many people who are gluten sensitive. Right. And most of them don't know they're gluten sensitive.
It's a huge thing in the U.S. Exactly. Gluten-free is like the huge business,
And because we also process, we cultivate and process cassava, we have that raw material there. Okay. So what I've been busy doing in the last 4 or 5 months is making batches and giving it to friends. Okay, you try this for taste, texture, color, and do feedback. So, you know, it's been an iterative process, and, you know, I'm developing that. And because I want to get that out on the market as well, say by the beginning of the rainy season. Okay. So that would complement the teas.
I get it. All right. Oh.
There you are.
That's so smart. Oh my gosh. Because I didn't see where you were going with the biscuits. I didn't see it. I see it. Of course, tea and biscuit. It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. It's perfect.
And then just recently, we've started collaborating with Red Lion Bakery. I'm sure they won't mind me mentioning. They do bread. Okay. So they are now adding moringa leaves into their bread. So now you have moringa bread,
Oh my God.
which is just so delicious, if I may say. And it is just, it looks healthy, it tastes healthy,
Okay.
you know.
Right.
So I think because we had positioned ourselves in the wellness, you know, business, that is, everything we're doing is going down that line.
Right.
You know. Everything to make people healthy, to eat healthily.
Right. Wow, that's super exciting. I'm excited. I'm like tea and biscuit. Oh my God. Like, you know, and now bread. I mean, you're basically hitting all the things Sierra Leoneans like. Biscuits, tea, and bread. Like,
Exactly.
you're basically soon you're going to be like the breakfast brand between you and Red Lion. It's like, you know, Sierra Leonean breakfast brands. If you can just, you know, find like a honey, you know, Morvigor honey.
Watch this space. It's funny you should say that because I was reading a couple of articles some time ago, and they were saying that it's amazing how bees that feed off the moringa flower produce better honey.
Oh, really?
And better tasting honey. So once I develop a farm, I'll start doing honey.
No, that's, I mean, you know, you keep adding
see,
value, keep adding value,
exactly.
Once you get into the habit of adding value to products,
There's no stopping, you know, there's no stopping.
That's so interesting. So one of the things that actually brought me here to this story is how in Sierra Leone, I constantly, you know, all our fruits and vegetables are seasonal for the most part, and you'll find that like when it's orange season, everybody is selling oranges. When it's mango season, everybody's selling oranges, but in the same form, right? It's the same laberu, shipton, common mango. It's the same orange. So I guess I don't know if this is if there's a question in here, but what I'm trying to say is that like, what advice would you give to people who are maybe not yet entrepreneurs, who are not even thinking about the agricultural sector, but when it comes to produce and, you know, agricultural products, what should be going on in their heads? Like, how do we get Sierra Leoneans and other Africans thinking about, okay, doing what you've done with regards to moringa, but on a larger scale and across the sector? What do we need to do?
One of the things we don't do here, and it costs us a lot in our products, is that we don't preserve. So as you say, now is the mango season. I mean, you can't turn or step on a mango and give it another 3 months. There's no mangoes to be had anywhere.
Right.
Why don't we preserve? By drying, sun drying.
Right.
I mean, dried fruit is such a healthy snack.
Right.
I'm thinking about it right now.
She's like, something is moving in my head right now.
Juicing,
Right.
making jam.
Right.
I mean, there's all this stuff that can be done. And a lot of it doesn't cost money. For example, if you want to dry mango, all you need to do is to make a solar dryer. And when I say solar, using God's own sunlight, having it in an enclosed space because you don't want it to get dusty, etc., etc. And dry it and packet it and you can do all sorts of things with it. That you are out in Whole Foods and wherever else it is.
Yeah.
People are buying dried fruits.
There's a whole dried fruit and nut section.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So why don't we do that?
Absolutely.
And it doesn't cost money.
Absolutely.
And I often say to folk, if you want to attract investment, you need to start doing something for yourself, because your potential investor wants to see your commitment, your level of commitment, before they put their money in.
Right.
So you try on a very small scale. Like we started the moringa powder in our kitchen. And then somebody else will come and say, you know, there's something in this. I mean, it's been done elsewhere. We can improve on this.
Right.
You know? So, I mean, I know there are some folk up in Kenya who are doing juices.
Okay.
And in fact, there's a lady in Freetown here who's doing juices.
I think the people up in Kenema, they import their concentrate though.
Well, can you imagine? Can you just imagine when it is all around us? I mean, that is just so sinful. Government should stop it. Really. It's all there. Why import it?
Yeah.
You know? I think in this part of the world, if you want to half succeed, you have to be tenacious.
Yes.
If you run away at the first hurdle, and let's face it, hurdles meet us every day. So what? There's a wall. Find ways of getting to the other side. You know what's on the other side. You know you need to get to the other side. Try going around the wall. Try placing a ladder against the wall. If all else fails, you got a sledgehammer.
And break through the wall.
You need to get there.
Right.
But if you give up at the first or at the slightest bit of inconvenience, which is what it is most of the time, then you're not going to succeed.
Right.
If anyone had told me 20 years ago I'd be making tea, I'd be saying, are you mad?
Tea and biscuits.
Tea and biscuits. If anyone had told me 20 years ago I'd be back in Sierra Leone, I'd be saying, you must be joking. But here I am, and I just feel so energized, you know, just thinking about all the possibilities that are out there. And I think my biggest regret is that I didn't know 30 years ago what I know now.
Right.
You know?
Because maybe you might have come home sooner.
I might have. But then it's never too late.
Right. That's true. Okay. What is your ultimate vision for Sierra Leone and Sierra Leonean entrepreneurs and the sector that you're in?
Gosh, you know, each time I go around, I see so much that we can do. You know, sometimes I think we have an inferiority complex. If this is made here, it's not good enough. Mind you, this is not a recent
Of course.
phenomenon. I mean, this was going on when I was young. They used to say, oh, made in Yaso. No, it's not good enough. Well, it's the made in Yaso of China that we are getting here, you know? So why can't we do it? So, you know, we have a Local Content Act. I wish our present administration would really dust that act and start implementing it and start encouraging folk. I mean, they're talking about, in that act, there's something about adding cassava flour to wheat flour to make bread.
Right.
And I say to people, I mean, that is a no-brainer, because next to rice, bread is our staple.
Absolutely.
food.
Absolutely.
Just think of all the cassava growing that would take place in this country.
That was actually, I think, a law that was passed in Nigeria under Obasanjo, where they made it that all bread made in Nigeria had to have, I think it was like 15 or 30% cassava in the bread that was sold.
Yeah. And here in Sierra Leone, we've done tests where they're actually adding 30% cassava flour to bread.
Okay.
But then nobody has taken up the production of cassava flour.
Oh,
So
my God.
instead, we grow the cassava and we sell it by the roadside, or we make gari. Well, let's face it,
so
gari
much
really
to do.
is not our thing.
It's not.
But bread
It's not.
is our
Gary
thing.
is our hard time thing.
Well, yes.
Yeah, like it's our hard time thing. It's like, you know, if not, you know, at least I think I
get sugar,
yes,
you know.
yes, you're
So,
okay.
you know, there is so much. You just mentioned fruits, and we just touched on 2 fruits: mangoes and
Oranges.
And oranges.
Every
There's
year.
pineapples. There's oh God, there's so much. There's herbs. There's a fish. I mean, folks are beginning to get into aquaculture now. There's so much of that we could do. There is just so much that could absorb the youth in Sierra Leone.
Right.
That when they start making money, nobody would want to go and work in the civil service.
Absolutely.
So I am hoping that, and I'm not talking about 10, 20 years down the line, 5 years down the line.
Absolutely.
we could
Absolutely.
begin to see the
Absolutely.
difference, you know.
Absolutely.
And then the other things would follow. Because if there's a lot of products to go out there, then the paper packagers will come in. And, you know, there's so much more that will come in.
Right.
But it just takes that catalyst, you know. And where's the catalyst going to come from? Let's not just sit and wait for government.
Of course.
Certainly we should not just sit and wait for the INGOs. As helpful as they can be, they are not just in it for the good of our health.
Of course. Of course.
So I think it's time we woke up and smelt the coffee that if we don't take the future of Sierra Leone in our hands, somebody will take it away from us. And where will we be?
And they do, because if you look at the trends, at least in the manufacturing sector, even as small as it is, and it's their sectors that are by and large dominated by foreign nationals. So that is the reality. Anyways.
And you see, another thing that I think we ought to start doing as well is collaborating. Not one person can do everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, I spoke to you just now about moringa bread. I don't make bread. So I'm collaborating with the people who make bread. I supply them with the moringa leaves. So if we start doing stuff like that, just find some other business with which you have synergy and see how you can work together. And often when you say that, people say, what is the trust factor? I think that's rubbish. I mean, trust factor, okay. Don't just go and try to synergize with every Tom, Dick or Harry. Find somebody with whom you speak the same language. Of course. That is how it works, you know? So,
all right. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Vickie Remoe Show with Dr. Eva of Morvigor Moringa team. The one thing I want you to take away from today's episode is this: you can change this economy. Why? Because you can be an agricultural entrepreneur just like her. And you don't need a factory. You can start in your very own kitchen. Start preserving those mangoes and those oranges and get on making your jam. And let's take the local content policy and make it a reality. Thank you for watching. This is the Vickie Remoe Show.